Today, when I look at my country and observe my fellow Americans, I see intolerance, a lack of cooperation, and misguided methods to bring about change, caused in part by bad journalism. We live in an age of easily accessible information. However, with information comes a unique set of dangers. From television to radio to simply browsing the web, misleading stories and deceptive journalism can be found anywhere, and it's a threat not limited to bloggers and conspiracy theorists. Journalists for the mainstream media are especially guilty in spreading biased, false news given their responsibility to the public. After examining the facts, I am convinced that lazy and deceptive journalism, of which there is an overabundance today, is detrimental to democracy and the stability of our country. Disagree or outright dislike President Trump, but one fact is irrefutable: mainstream media is indeed fake news. The term fake news has come to mean any news or source of information that is purposefully created to misinform or deceive its audience. When aimed at mainstream media, fake news implies the propagation of stories which are dishonest, deceptive, and without journalistic integrity. Within the media, there are many examples of news networks hiding facts and furthering a biased agenda. As revealed by Jane Mayer of The New Yorker, near the end of the 2016 presidential election, Fox News actively worked to suppress a verified story on Donald Trump having an affair with the porn star Stormy Daniels. The proof was obtained by Diana Falzone, who had worked on the story since March and confirmed it by October with multiple examples of evidence. However, although Falzone turned in her story to Fox News, coverage of the story was continuously denied or kept in a suspended limbo. It wasn't until a year after Trump became president that the Wall Street Journal released a story of their own, detailing the affair, Trump's hush money to silence Daniels, and his attorney's illegal efforts to conceal the payment as legal fees. The behind-the-scenes handling of this story presents a clear case of a media outlet protecting a favorite party and sweeping misconduct under the rug. This bias is further emphasized when considering their usual style of reporting and the way they frame the actions of politicians. In the eyes of most, they are no longer a conservative-leaning news network. They are a Trump-leaning news network. On June 22, 2017, CNN reported that Trump aide Anthony Scaramucci was under Senate investigation for alleged connections to a Russian government investment fund. In actuality, Scaramucci was not under investigation. The claim was false, a serious mark against CNN's reputation. The Washington Post called it one of the biggest journalistic embarrassments in CNN's 37-year history. The network later retracted that story, and 3 reporters who worked on it later resigned, but the ramifications of it being published are not so short-lived, and it's alarming that it made it far enough to be published at all. People make mistakes. If stories like these and others like it can so easily be published by a network as big as CNN, then what does that say about the trustworthiness of the news? Not only does a false story like that prohibit Americans from making informed decisions, but it also amplifies a sense of danger and chaos. It places doubt and distrust on the foundations by which our very society functions. And as if biased news and lazy journalism aren't bad enough, there's also the matter of sensationalism and superficial reporting. John Stossel, a well-known journalist, wrote an article criticizing what he describes as stupid news. In his article, he relates part of what he said during his 50th college reunion held at Princeton University. To paraphrase, in 1994, the O.J. Simpson trial was at the forefront of mainstream news coverage, a notable story, but one far less important when compared to the Rwandan genocide, which occurred in the same year but was only given a fraction of the attention it deserved. During another reunion in 2014, he added, "One of the biggest stories was hysteria about an Ebola virus outbreak. My fellow Princeton panelists sneered at me when I said that. They said that thousands died in Africa. That was true, But if that's the measure for a news story, why aren't millions of deaths from malaria and diarrhea in Africa front page news? Because Ebola scares reporters and makes for better clickbait headlines. The news, he concluded, is stupid and shallow. One example of this from 2017, CNN hunted down a Reddit user and threatened to dox them unless presented with an apology. To paraphrase the network itself, CNN is not publishing the Reddit user's name because he has issued an apology, has taken down all his offending posts, and is not going to repeat this ugly behavior. CNN reserves the right to publish his identity should any of that change. The person's inciting misdeed was creating a meme at CNN's expense, which President Trump later retweeted. However, the exact circumstances are irrelevant either way. As backed up by journalist David Harshani, stories like these have no real purpose. This piece didn't educate viewers on the underbelly of social media, or the habits of the president, or anything else. It wasn't an argument over ideas or policy, it wasn't entertainment. It was, however, a story birthed from the hysterics that erupted over a silly meme Trump retweeted. These are examples of harmful journalism. These are efforts which undercuts an audience's ability to possess discernment, to be well-informed, and to be properly equipped when interacting with their environment. Garry Kasparov, a Russian political activist, once said, "The point of modern propaganda isn't only to misinform or push an agenda, it is to exhaust your critical thinking, to annihilate truth." America today needs the truth. If journalism is to be a help for democracy rather than a hindrance, then reporters must reevaluate the methods and standards by which they relay the news. Verified facts and background analysis instead of over-opinionated sensationalism. Recognize that we have a right to free speech, but that we must personally hold ourselves to a standard of sincerity and candor. In any society which depends on the knowledge reported to them via television, radio, newspaper, and social media, those responsible for sharing the news must hold themselves accountable for the effect they have on their viewership. Instead of sleepwalking us towards disaster, Mark Hertzgaard and Kyle Pope once wrote, the U.S. news media needs to remember their Paul Revere responsibilities to awaken, inform, and rouse the people to action. Likewise, we as viewers must be discerning and critical of what the news tells us. It's important that we confirm information before forming conclusions. Ask yourself, who is doing the reporting and whether they might be serving an agenda. Make it a habit to explore viewpoints and experiences contrary to your own. In an age of information and misinformation, our best defense is to never be hesitant to ask deeper questions, to do your own research, or to explore the problems our world faces from different angles. Like it or not, discernment, critical thinking, constructive discussion, and a commitment to truth are the only solution.